All right. Well, I'm going to talk about a study that we conducted together with Florian, Joris, and some other colleagues in the Netherlands, and then we are shifting a bit from apps to data donation. And I'm going to tell you what it is, or what we understand as data donation, because there are a multitude of definitions. We want to acknowledge our funders, which is for data collection, the NIMLS network, which is the network for innovative methods in longitudinal studies of aging at the University of Michigan. And also the software development was supported by the Data Donation Infrastructure Project D3I, which is funded by the platform Digital Infrastructures of the Netherlands. So what is the problem? Is that, well, if we want to measure physical activity, why it's important to measure physical activity, I don't think that I need to tell you, because it predicts many life outcomes and important, especially for older adults, as for their loneliness and for their quality of life and so forth. But accurate measurement is difficult because if I were to ask you how many steps you walked yesterday or what you did, then you would probably not remember. So there's high recall error. And also, if we are using other methods such as day reconstruction method, then it's quite burdensome for participants and also prone to recall error as well. If we provide people devices such as Fitbits or wearables, then usually these studies are focusing on short time periods such as a week or maybe a couple of weeks, and people are not necessarily compliant with that, so they turn these off or take them off and so forth. So we thought about data donation as a potential to leverage, and data donation is basically, as we understand it, is providing researchers, so participants provide researchers with the data that already exists, which is possible due to the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. So this is the EU and UK regulation, but actually big companies such as Facebook, LinkedIn, all these platforms, but also those which we are talking about in our study, they make this possible also for example, for the US and other countries. So people can request their data, everybody can request this data because that's personal data, and receive a so-called data download package, which is in a structured format and machine readable format, and then they can transmit it to researchers. How? Well, what we are developing in this D3I consortium is basically a software, a platform for conducting studies, which allows this data donation to be performed in privacy-preserving manner. What does it mean? It means that the participant reads an informed consent form, and then they go to their device, they download the package from the platform, and then this on their device, so it can be a laptop, it can be a cell phone or smartphone, and then the variables of interest are extracted from this package. So basically, if I'm interested in the number of steps, those are extracted. If I'm interested in some other, for example, the number of hours the person watched Netflix, then this is extracted, but not other information. This information is presented to the participants so that they know what they're about to share with the researcher, and then only this is transmitted. So this process is performed locally on the device. No data is leaving the device of the participant. That's why we call it local processing. And basically for physical activity studies, the data can be downloaded from the devices or from platforms such as Google Location History from Google. So there are benefits which I'm not going to go over, otherwise I'll run out of time. But what we wanted to know is, well, is it feasible even? These are older adults, right? So they might not use devices, they might not want to share, they might have concerns. So our questions were, what determines their willingness to donate data? And also what we are not going to talk about in this presentation, but ultimately also, can we predict health outcomes from this data? So what we did is that we conducted, or are conducting at the moment, a study in the LIST panel, which is the probability-based online panel of the general population in the Netherlands, with, well, basically everyone, or almost everyone, I'm looking at yours, in the LIST panel who is over 50 years old, or 50 and older. And we asked them certain questions about their characteristics, their health behaviors, illnesses, and so forth. Also about their smartphone ownership and their smartphone behaviors. And well, we decided to do that with smartphones, also as a way to see, well, can we actually do that, and what are we getting then as data. We are cognizant that this, of course, does not mean that we capture all the physical activity. So we asked those who own smartphones to download the packages of physical activity from their devices from Apple Health, Samsung Health, and the Google Location History package, and donate them using this software that I was talking about that is called Port. And we also looked into possibilities, for example, of using Google Fit, but that's part of Google, and we had a preliminary pilot where we saw that very few people use Google Fit, so we decided that this is not cost effective, because for each of these platforms, scripts need to be developed that extract data, and that drives up the costs, of course. So we did this in 2 phases. We started in January this year, so I am presenting not as much as we had hoped, but I hope that this can still be used for our discussion. And well, we invited, or the LIST panel invited about 400 people as a soft launch, and then saw that, well, so for all these 3 platforms, so Google, Samsung, Apple, different number of people had those, and then out of those who were asked for consent, consent was given for this from about 54% to, well, the lowest was 25% for Google Location History. Then, well, depending again on the platform, from about 10% of those who were asked for consent to about 31% were actually attempting donation. And what we saw was that, well, it worked for some platforms relatively well, such as Apple Health, but for Google Location History, something was going on there. So you see that only 2 people out of 12 who attempted donated the data. So we basically decided to postpone the data collection and investigate what the problem was. The problem was with the script. And we found it, and then now we went into field again with a main study on Monday. So these are what do we have today? Thursday, right? So in this 4 days, what happened is that about almost 2,000 people were invited, and then out of them, well, about 550 were asked for consent of those who had Apple Health, Samsung Health, or Google Location History. The rates, these consent given rates, are pretty much the same as for the launch and attempted donation as well. But what we see is that for Google Location History, those who attempted donation, a much higher percent also actually donated the data. So seems the problem is fixed. This is what we are happy about very much. But because we are still in the field, I cannot tell you more about comparing all this rich data from the LIST panel, which exists from 2007 and has a ton of information on health of people. So because they have this annual module on health, and comparing this to the objective information or anything else about the determinants. But what I can tell you is that what we learned, so we learned that this is quite a complex study. Well, we knew that going into that, but there were a lot of moving parts which needed to be synchronized, such as methodological, technological, but also ethical and legal considerations. What helped is that we had institutional support from Utrecht University, for example, and also a pre-existing relationship with the list panel or center data, because the ethical approval went quite smoothly and quickly, just because in this data donation consortium, we are running multiple pilots and have run several pilots in the past. And for the very first pilot, it took about 7 months to maybe not that long, I need to check, but months to actually obtain this. There are risks for our pilot. So what helped is to be involved into the design of the software. So I actually talked to the programmers and they used our study also to relaunch the software and to be integrated in the consortium, where we have also legal scholars who looked into the procedures that we are implementing. And also we had a pilot study with Port, with Central Data about a year ago, where we looked into donation of Google location history with their sister panel, the Center panel, which is a non-probability one where they play around, so to say. So so I said here, searching for a solution, we found, hopefully we found this solution. What we're going to do next is we're going to finish the main data collection and then look into the determinants of consent and selection bias, so who does not donate data, as well as the quality of the donated physical activity data. So they are extracted, right? So what we are extracting is the number of steps from Apple Health and Samsung Health, and from Google location history, that's running, walking, biking, so hiking, all types of physical activity that we predefined. And then we'll use this multi-source physical activity data to see whether we can predict health outcomes. This is a pilot, a very tiny study, so to say. What we ultimately also want to do is to investigate the potential of implementing this in the larger scale studies, so that they can leverage this non-existent, basically longitudinal perspective, and look into the health of older adults. So these are our contexts, but I'm looking forward to your questions.